Ana, ¿tú puedes traducir esto a Ole a ver si él puede captar en inglés? Y luego, Ole, si tú captas que yo estoy hablando, ahora tú habla en inglés para que ella traduzca en español.
Okay, I hear the translation very well. I didn't hear what is being said in Spanish, but I hear the English translation, so it seems to work fine.
Correcto.
Good. Oh, this is complex today.
Okay. Vamos a iniciar la transmisión, doctor.
Está bien.
Listo, ya están entrando los participantes.
Ok. Vamos a esperar unos 30 segundos, un minuto a que la gente entre.
Sí, no te preocupes. A ti, gracias. Listo, doctor. Tenemos 11:05. Vamos a 11:04, perdón. 11:05 comenzamos.
Bien. Muy buenos días a todos. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros el día de hoy en nuestro primer senior webinar con traducción simultánea al inglés. Vamos a comenzar siempre como nuestro pequeño protocolo. En primer lugar, un saludo para ustedes de nuestro presidente, el doctor Ennio Pacini, y más tarde nos va a dirigir un mensaje. Y ahora vamos a iniciar. Le voy a ceder la palabra a Julio Medina Chávez, representante de Holcim, nuestro patrocinador principal de estos senior webinars de Alcompat con Holcim. Julio, adelante, por favor.
Gracias, doctor. Pues muy buenos días a todos los que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Nuevamente contentos de iniciar esta temporada de webinars con todos ustedes. La verdad es que siempre contentos, agradecidos que nos acompañen por acá. Sabemos que son temas relevantes para todo el gremio que es Alcompat, ¿no? Entonces, bienvenidos, disfruten la sesión del día de hoy. Nos está acompañando Ole en esta sesión. Pues nada, bienvenidos y gracias, doctor, por la planeación de todos estos seminarios.
Al contrario, Julio, muchísimas gracias a ti. Por supuesto, tenemos diversas personalidades nuestros participantes que al final comentaremos, pero en especial ahora a nuestro presidente de honor del Alcompat Internacional, la doctora Mari Carmen Andrade, que está aquí con nosotros, y otros colegas de la Junta Directiva y del resto del Alcompat de varios países. Voy a permitirme presentar rápidamente al doctor Ole Jensen. Ole Jensen trabaja en la Universidad Técnica de Dinamarca y él nos va a presentar una plática sumamente interesante, un webinar sobre materiales inteligentes en ingeniería civil, un tema que está sumamente de moda en todo el mundo. Voy a contar un poco apenas del currículum de Ole. Ole es doctor en ciencias y profesor en materiales de construcción en la Universidad Técnica de Dinamarca. Adicionalmente, él es y ha sido profesor visitante y profesor honorario en diferentes universidades alrededor del mundo. Sus áreas de interés tienen que ver con los materiales de construcción en general y con sus propiedades físicas y químicas. Sus principales actividades de investigación incluyen la estabilidad por deformación, lo que es lo que nosotros conocemos como shrinkage and cracking, ¿verdad? Que es contracción y agrietamiento del concreto. También el curado del concreto, en concreto de ultra alta resistencia, en reacciones de endurecimiento del concreto y de self-desiccation. Ole es fellow de la organización RILEM, que también, como ustedes saben, RILEM es partner de Alcompat Internacional, y Ole ha sido chairman y deputy chairman de diferentes comités técnicos de esta sociedad, incluyendo el Comité de Actividades Técnico, el TAC, y del Comité de Actividades de Educación, el EAC. Ole ha estado envuelto en aproximadamente 50 eventos y conferencias internacionales como organizador, miembro del comité director, miembro del comité técnico, presidente de sesión, orador invitado, etc. Ole ha organizado y enseñado cerca de 25 cursos internacionales de doctorado a un total de 500 a 1000 participantes, y ha sido autor de más de 100 publicaciones profesionales, entre las que se incluyen papers de journals, memorias de congresos, patentes, libros y estándar. Quiero comentar también que con Ole tenemos una gran relación aquí en Alcompat y también con RILEM, y que pronto tendremos un curso en persona coordinado por Ole y por Costa Kobler, que son los dos organizadores de este evento, que lo vamos a tener el próximo año aquí en México y al cual ustedes van a estar invitados. Ole, muchísimas gracias por atender a esta invitación y bueno, quedamos en tus manos placenteramente.
Thank you, and good morning. It's good evening here. Thank you for the nice introduction. I would like to add slightly to the presentation before I go further, but first of all, there's a little bit complex set up here because I want to show you some experiments. I hope I can make things work with video and all these monitors around me. But good morning at your place. So I will switch the camera. Yes. Anna, let me know if you see the right camera now. Yeah. So have a look at this. It looks like an ordinary steel wire, but it is not. Of its kind, there's only this piece in the entire world, and it is mine. Let's have a look at what it can do. Please look carefully. Does it spell right here? I don't know. At least it's my name. I don't know if it's reversed, the camera, but it says O-L-E. Do you have the picture reversed? Or do you see it right?
It's perfect.
It's perfect. So you can see it's my name, O-L-E. I'm so happy my name is not Pedro or Carmen or such like, because it would have been very, very difficult to construct that. What you saw here is so-called memory metal exhibiting temperature-induced polymorphic phase transition. It would be nice if I could hear also Anna, the interpreter, in English. Is that possible? Perhaps I need to push the Spanish now. If I push the Spanish, I can hear your translation, because then I know. Good, I get the point. So this material or phenomenon is used for many important things. And teeth straightening is one example. And you can buy a shirt which automatically rolls up its sleeves when it gets hot. And you can buy another shirt which irons itself when you put it on. It's a pure lifesaver for the busy bachelor when mother is not around. But before you rush out to get these, you should better speak with your financial advisor, because they cost $2,500 a piece. Yes. Memory metal belongs to a group of materials referred to as smart materials. Yeah. And different definitions on smart materials exist. A generally accepted one, and I hope, let me see, here we go. Do you see the shared screen now?
Perfect, Ole. We see it.
So you see the slide now?
Yes, smart materials.
Oh, good. I need to be sure. So different definitions on smart materials exist. Yeah, a generally accepted one is that smart materials are designed materials with a property that can be significantly and reversibly changed by a stimulus. And that could be, for example, temperature or stress or moisture or electricity. My definition is that such a material should just be smarter than the average university student. And as you saw, my memory metal is doing very well because it, without major mistakes, is able to spell a simple name. Anyway, these smart materials, they are all around us. And as you may guess, many sensors and actuators are based on them. And more surprisingly, you both eat and produce such materials yourself. Gelatin and hair are smart materials. And if you think that within civil engineering, smart materials are nothing but materials of the future, and that they will always remain materials of the future, then you are wrong. They have already found their way into the construction materials area. These materials are indeed here now. And in this talk, I will show you a handful of examples from this fascinating world of combining smart material technology with plain good old construction materials. Actually, the opposite features of delicately designed smart materials with specific properties. And cheap, ill-defined as-is construction materials are exactly what makes them a good match. To finish up on the memory metal, a Swiss company sells it for pre-stressing or post-strengthening of concrete and steel structures. It's for repair and for new construction. On this slide, you see an example where an existing structure undergoes repair with reinforcing bars of memory metal. Yeah, let me show you another thing. So let me see. Where is it? Here we go. Switch off this one. Let me see. Stop share. Here we go. Go back to the video. Here we go. Another video. One sec. Here we go. Here we go. So last time I was in China, I bought this teacup at the National Tea Museum in Hangzhou. And it has this decoration on its side. Typical Chinese dragon decoration. One sec, sorry for the disturbance. Here we go. So let us pour some hot water into the cup and pay attention to this dragon on the side. You see it clearly, I suppose.
Perfect.
Good. The reversible color change is due to the paint being thermochromic. The paint contains a special dye which at a certain temperature switches its chemical bond structure and thus its absorption and reflection of light. Color change in concrete has been made with micro-encapsulated pigments. And through this, and though this utilization may not be considered a fundamental value for our survival, other cases are more relevant, and let's look into that. Let me see, I go back to the slide. Takes a second, sorry. I will share screen. Yeah. I suppose you see the slides again now.
Perfect, Ole.
Good. I go further. So this is a meeting room at the Technical University of Denmark. The glass separation can be by the switch of a button. In a split second, be changed from transparent to translucent. So like this. And I can go back again, of course. It is a smart glass based on electrochromic materials. In this case, it's a composite glass with an internal liquid crystal layer, which produces the electrochromic effect. In Tokyo, quite a number of public toilets have been installed with transparent glass throughout. And as soon as the door is closed and locked, the glass becomes translucent. you may conclude that the Japanese indeed trust technology. Even to the extent of their toilet privacy. But actually, in case of a power cut, the glass will remain translucent. The reason behind these fancy toilets is convenience and in particular safety. Before you enter the toilet, you can be sure that it's not occupied or that somebody is hiding in there. There have been cases of assaults in public toilets. Another use of smart materials technology involving glasses is thermochromic windows. The same principle as behind my Chinese teacup. But in the case of windows, the glass is covered with a thin film of vanadium oxide, which is tuned to allow a high transmission of solar radiation in cold weather. So the heat gain will be increased and a low transmission in hot weather to minimize the need for cooling. Let us try out another small experiment. So now I have a video change. Let me see. Here we go.
Ole, sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
It probably you don't need to wait for the translation. You can follow on. Yes. Perfect.
I didn't get the point.
You don't need to wait till Anna translates.
Okay. So let me see. It's not so clear. I put on some light. What I have here appears to be plain mud. As you can see, surely it's a fluid. And to my desire, I can instantaneously change it into a solid material. Okay. It looks like magic, but it is not. It is a magnetostrictive material, a smart fluid. A smart fluid which is composed of a suspension of micrometer-sized ferromagnetic particles. To induce the transformation, I simply attached a magnet to the container. And actually, by adjusting the magnetic field, a controlled and continuous range of viscosities can be achieved. This technology is used in the shock absorbers of nice family cars like Porsche, Ferrari, and Lamborghini. And it is being tested for use in bulletproof vests. More interesting for us, the material is in civil engineering used for seismic dampers to control structural oscillations during an earthquake. And it is being used in active dampers in cable-stayed bridges to control the wind oscillations. Yeah, I'm trying to switch to share now. Here we go. Here is an example from the 1.1 kilometer span of the Ruski Bridge, where you can see, and I hope you can see the laser pointer. So these are active dampers with magnetostrictive materials in. It's used in all cable-stayed bridges. Can you imagine to in situ cast a full house in this material? And when you need to recycle the house, or if you disagree with the owners, it's just a matter of removing the magnets. Good. As you are surely aware, water is vital for all known forms of life. And water has a vital influence on all known forms of construction materials. Exchange of water with the surroundings may cause porous construction materials to shrink, swell, and crack. And water is an essential ingredient for the proper mixing and hardening of concrete. The presence of water may turn a nail into rust. And when it suddenly gets so quiet back home, when your wife has disappeared through the rotting wooden bedroom floor, water is involved as well. So obviously, if we can control the availability and properties of water, we can touch the soul and life of our precious construction materials. Exactly this can be done with a smart material called superabsorbent polymers, or in shorthand, SAP. I have a little bit of challenge here with the control. Here we go. Modern baby diapers are filled with it in order to keep the bottom dry of these cute little creatures. These polymers can absorb a large amount of water from the surroundings and retain it within their structure, forming an artificial jellyfish. I have started my career from the bottom. Modern high-performance concrete, they contain less water than what is needed for the unrestricted hydration of the cement. This leads to so-called self-desiccation. Shrinkage and cracking of the concrete during hardening. This problem can be overcome by adding to the concrete mixture superabsorbent polymers, which will form tiny water stores distributed throughout the concrete. During hardening, these water stores prevent the concrete from drying and cracking. Superabsorbent polymers are quite fascinating. So let us have a closer look at them.
Sorry, if you don't want to hear Anna, you can put the button of interpretation off.
I get the point. I think it's nice to hear Anna, because then I keep things under control.
Perfect.
Here I have 5 grams of superabsorbent polymer. This type of superabsorbent polymer is able to take up 35 times its own weight of water. So 35 times 5 grams, it equals 175 milliliter. So I have some pure water here. This is what we in Denmark refer to as a Swedish strong beer. So 175 milliliter of water. Let's give this to the superabsorbent polymer. So in a few seconds, I have produced nothing less than 100,000 little pieces of jellyfish. We can mix this into concrete and we can use it for many other interesting purposes, such as, for example, if you want to take a photo of a lightly dressed lady lying in the snow, and you don't want her to freeze. It can be used for firefighting where you do not want the water to run away. It can be used for artificial skiing lanes, as it provides better properties than pure normal snow. Within superabsorbent polymers, 35 times its own weight of water is nothing. Here I have 1.6 gram of another type of superabsorbent polymer. It is able to take up 100 times its own weight. So 100 times 1.6, it's 160. Approximately 160. So this is the world's fastest superabsorbent polymer. Superabsorbent polymers in general, they have a good biocompatibility. So they are used for soft contact lenses and breast implants. And this is really good stuff. Yeah. The polymeric change of superabsorbent polymers, they are extremely hydrophilic. So when they are exposed to water, the polymers will be pushed apart to have the water molecules around these polymers. But because of the cross-linking, the polymers do not dissolve. They retain a solid or gel-like structure. Yeah. Within superabsorbent polymers, 100 times its own weight of water is nothing. I have another type here. It's like the size of a small fish egg, 2 millimeters in diameter. And when you put that into water, it takes up 200 times its own weight of water. And at that point, it consists entirely, almost entirely of water, of course. And for that reason, it of course has properties like water to a high extent. For example, optical properties, so refractive index. So underwater, it's invisible. So it's one of these small things grown to that size. Yeah, time does not allow me to show more examples of superabsorbent polymers, but in extreme cases, they can absorb up to 5,000 times their own weight. In concrete, we have been using superabsorbent polymers for shrinkage reduction, for making controlled air entrainment, to promote self-healing, and for rheology control during shotcreting. During shotcreting with the wet method, you need a very fluid concrete to allow it to be pumped. But as soon as the concrete has been projected to the wall, you like it to stiffen, to be able to build up thick layers. And this can be done by adding dry sap in the spray nozzle. I will show you one set of graphs in this talk. It shows how stresses develop in ultra-high performance concrete during restrained hardening. So this is a 200 megapascal concrete without any superabsorbent polymers. During restrained hardening, stresses build up, and after 3 days, the concrete cracks as indicated by this relief of stresses. If we, on the other hand, add 0.3% of superabsorbent polymers relative to cement weight, stresses develop much slower and no cracks form. And if we add 0.6% sap, we can almost eliminate the stress buildup. So for each kilogram of cement, just add a spoonful of sap, and you very considerably change the behavior of the concrete. It is mind-boggling. Finalizing this talk, we should bring into perspective the issues we have been touching on. When we build a mobile phone, we use relatively small amounts of materials. So today and tomorrow, we can throughout use purified sourced materials. We can use gold and terbium coming from the other side of the globe. Right now, we are living in an era where we, to a high extent, do the same thing with construction materials. For example, we source bauxite in China. We purify it chemically. We send it to Iceland for electrolysis, and we produce 99.8% pure aluminium together with a lot of so-called red mud, which we have no idea what to do with. However, obviously, this can only be an intermezzo in the history of construction materials. On planet Earth, we will soon be 10 billion humans with a requirement of enormous amounts of construction materials. In the long run, we have to use the materials we find right at our doorstep, including our own trash. And the processing has to be kept to a minimum. This is how we did in historical times, and this is how we have to do in the future. If you live at the Bolivian salt flat or near it, you build your house out of salt blocks. At the ice shelf of Greenland, you make an igloo out of snow. And in Alberobello in Italy, you make a limestone trullo. And in Shibam in Yemen, you make skyscrapers out of mud. And in the swamps of southern Iraq, you make mutifs from reed. It's a type of straw. And when the Danish National Parliament had burned to the ground in 1884, the new parliament, the present one, was built on the same foundations and with the bricks and stones from the old one. I will finish up with an Einstein quote. Though Einstein did not directly work on the nuclear bomb, he was its scientific father. In the aftermath of World War II, he was at a dinner party in 1947, asked about what weapons might be employed in World War III. And his reply was that the weapons of World War III he did not know of. But World War IV he was sure would be fought with sticks and stones. And I think Einstein predicted more than the future of weapon development. He also predicted the future of construction materials. So I would say, what construction materials will be used tomorrow, I do not know of. But surely in the end, we will have to build our houses of wood and concrete. And trash, by the way. But we can do it in a modified way. Tiny changes may not cost much and may make a big difference. Even with wood and concrete, we can go smarter, as I have simplified in this talk, exemplified. So thank you for your attention. It has been a pleasure and honor to give this talk to you. And I apologize for my technical challenges, which were not solved perfectly, but you got the point, I hope. Let me see, let me change to the normal camera again. Stop share. It's not easy. Here we go. So good to see you again.
Ole, thank you for your very, very amazing webinar.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have a space for questions from our audience. While someone asks something, let me tell you that I told you at the beginning that we were going to have from 40 to 60 people. Mm-hmm. We finally had 55.
I see. Okay, good.
And they were from these countries: Brazil, Spain, Colombia, El Salvador, Cuba, Mexico, Bolivia, Venezuela, USA, Guatemala, and Argentina.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we are very, very happy. So please, to all the audience, we have a space for a couple of questions. Mientras se animan para las preguntas, voy a cederle la palabra a nuestro presidente, a Eño, que tiene unas palabras para ustedes. Eño, por favor, adelante.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ole Jensen, for your contribution for us association. Thank you very much. Your name is an important name on the research that is made in Latin America, of course, around the world, but in us university in Latin America is a very important name, and his papers and technical contribution, scientific contribution, I would like to say that is very important for us groups, researchers groups. Gracias a todos que nos escuchan. Es un placer hablarles una vez más en nombre de Alcompat Internacional, la Asociación Latinoamericana de Control de Calidad, Patología y Recuperación de la Construcción. Es un honor tener la posibilidad de estar con el doctor Ole Jensen acá con nosotros, escucharle, ver, y los que están en investigación ya han leído sus artículos, sus importantes contribuciones para el avance de la tecnología del hormigón. Así que Alcompat está muy contenta con esto. Tenemos mucho que agradecer a Holcim, ¿no?, que nos brinda con estas senior webinars. Gracias, Holcim, por estar con nosotros ya desde hace mucho tiempo. Gracias, Pedro, por organizar estas webinars, y a todas las personas que están en la Secretaría General en Mérida, México. Seguimos entonces con las preguntas.
Thank you, Eño. So, Ole, we have a question here in our chat.
Okay.
Let's see. The first one is regarding the superabsorbent polymers. How is the strength affected, and how is this material tested, since it looks like it settles very fast?
Yeah, okay. First of all, effect on strength. It depends on the concrete you put it into and how much you dose into the concrete. If you dose it to a high performance concrete, that means low water cement ratios, then you can dose it at levels and with an appropriate type where you have no strength reduction. So it will keep the strength, and you will, at the same time, you may even have a small strength gain, a minor one, but you avoid the bad properties these ultra high performance concretes they have. In other cases, you may like to add superabsorbent polymers, even though they reduce strength to some extent. And we have a similar situation if we use superabsorbent polymers for frost protection to generate air voids in concrete. Then if we use a normal air entrainer in concrete, of course we have a strength reduction. We sacrifice strength on behalf of durability. And same thing will happen with superabsorbent polymers if you use that for this kind of air entrainer. But the thing is, contrary to air entrainers, with superabsorbent polymers, we can make exactly the pores we like in the concrete, of the right shape, the right size, and we can better control the amount. So you will have a lower strength reduction than you would have with air entrainer, because with air entrainer, you would have to overdose. But if you put a lot of superabsorbent polymers in the concrete, you will create porosities, and these porosities will reduce strength. On the other hand, you improve hydration conditions because the superabsorbent polymers, they give off water to the surrounding cement. And if the cement is in need for water, it will lead to a strength gain, which may compensate partly or fully or even a little bit more than that, the strength loss from the porosity creation. So it will depend very much on the situation, how it will affect strength. Of course, you should do things in a wise way. So this was regarding the strength effect. And how is this material tested, since it looks like it settles very fast? Also, this depends very, very much on the superabsorbent polymer. And the one you use in concrete, of course, it should be of an appropriate type. If you have very large superabsorbent polymer particles, like the type I showed you, these, the fish egg, they are relatively large, 2 millimeters in diameter. I wouldn't imagine. Here's another type, by the way. This is also a superabsorbent polymer particle. It has the shape of a little crocodile. If you put that into concrete, in principle, it will swell up before setting, absorb water, and then during hardening, it will shrink and it will leave a cavity with the shape of a crocodile. So you can make crocodile paws in concrete if you like. This one is meant for children to have fun with, of course. And you put it inside an empty Coca-Cola bottle, a big one, 2 liter, and you fill in water, and you look how next day it will take up all the space in the Coca-Cola bottle. It will take a long time for this one to swell up. And some of the types I show you here, also depending on their morphology. The very fast one I showed you here, the individual particles are quite small, and they have a broccoli shape, so water very easily get access to them, and this is why it's so incredibly fast, this one. Polymers you put into concrete of the type which I have been using and testing, they may have particle sizes of 30, 50, 100 micrometer, and then when they swell up, they will be twice, 2.5 times larger, such like. And these enormous swelling capacities I showed you here, 100, 200 times their own weight in water. It doesn't become so much in concrete because of the ionicity of the pore fluid. So there we will typically talk about absorptions of 20 or 30 times their own weight, 15 times, such like. So to answer your question in a bit briefer way, they do not settle very fast unless you like them to settle very fast, because it depends on the type you put in there. And if you use them in concrete, what you usually would like to is that they react with the water during, if you use them for shotcreting, of course, you want them to swell up when from the period where they are added in the nozzle and then until they hit the wall, or very briefly thereafter. So you have this stiffening very quickly. If you mix them in the lab, well, you want them to swell up within the time of mixing and a little bit more, let's say in a few minutes. And with the particle sizes we're dealing with the particle shape we're dealing with, such superabsorbent polymers, they will just be, call it the standard ones. You don't need to do anything particular in that case. I think it answered the question. If not, let me know and I'll try again.
Of course, a very complete answer. Here we have another question from Carmen Andrade. Carmen says, thanks Ole for your talk, always inspiring. My question is about reversibility of the absorbent polymers. Can the water be recovered from the polymer even when added in concrete? Yes, Carmen, so nice that you are participating also. We know each other well, and I'm always happy to see you and to read from you in this case. These superabsorbent polymers, from a starting point of view, they are all fully reversible. That means if I take this material here, or I take this one, and I leave it for long enough time, water will evaporate from it. Their absorption isotherm, this material, is like, it's just a horizontal line along the relative humidity axis up to 100%. I'm roughly speaking roughly.
And then at 100% relative humidity, you have all the water uptake. So even the slightest, and it's a fairly reversible curve. So you can do several runs through this cycle. So in principle, I can just dry out this material. It will stick a little bit together, but then when it's dry, let's say I separate the particles, slight grinding or whatever, and I can repeat the process. The thing is, if you use it in concrete, this reversibility, it will be affected because certain ions, they will be absorbed into the superabsorbent polymers, in particular cation ions, so calcium, which we have plenty sources of in concrete. It may be aluminate ions. Here we have 3 plus 3, calcium plus 2, and they will act as cross-linkers in the superabsorbent polymer. So when you have superabsorbent polymers in the concrete, they have absorbed the water during the mixing and so on, and stiffening. There will be a cavity filled with the superabsorbent polymer, filled with, you may say, solidified water, but solidified in a way where it will be given off during the slightest relative humidity change. So if there's some neighbor around, cement, asking for some water, it will be given off on the spot. The reversibility will be affected because of the calcium ions, aluminate ions in particular, because they will act as cross-linkers in the superabsorbent polymer. So they will make the polymeric structure to call it contract, and in that way give off the water. And in principle, there will be a little tiny superabsorbent polymer particle rattling around in this cavity it generated originally. And its ability to reswell will be it will be very modest. There will be almost no ability to reswell in the case of concrete. You can use different types of superabsorbent polymers. These phenomena depend on the type. You can design them for their purpose. And of course, for concrete, you would use something which is better suited for concrete. If you use them for baby diapers, which is 99% of all superabsorbent polymer production goes into baby diapers, of course, they use what is the cheapest and the most suitable for this type of use. So be aware, superabsorbent polymers, it's not just superabsorbent polymers, it's an extremely wide range of materials. Like we all know, concrete is not just concrete, it's so many different things, and same thing with superabsorbent polymers. So they can be designed to our taste with a very great range of variability. Let me show you something else you already know of. Do you know such like, if you've been in Europe, Haribo, the German national brand, it's called gummy bears. It's gelatin, and just with a little bit of color and sugar. I can take out one. So it's a small gummy bear. Okay, and children like it, of course. If you take these and put them into water, the gelatin, and then wait for the night, you should not shake the container or anything, and it's better to use demineralized water than tap water. Then next day, it will have grown to this size, okay? So instead of this tiny one, it will be this big. So you can have a fun children's birthday party at your place if you like. Okay, you can show the children how they will grow from one day to another. Same thing as with this one, of course. So you have been working with superabsorbent polymers in your kitchen already, I suppose, with the gelatin. Did I answer the question? Can the water be removed? Yeah, sure. It gives off the water. If you ask for it, it gives it off straight away on the spot. The slightest relative humidity lowering and water is gone from the superabsorbent polymer because of its sorption isotherm is so distinct. It's an extreme material. It's a smart material. It has the stimulus of water activity, which triggers its, you may say, its kind of phase change.
Perfect, Ole. Thank you very much. We have a last question. Do we have a building or a structure made with these polymers, or is this in experimental stages?
Yes, sure, we have several places in the Chinese high-speed railroad. the concrete structures have been made with superabsorbent polymers added. And I know that the wind turbine foundations in the North Sea, offshore wind turbines, the concrete foundations have been made with ultra high performance concrete foundations. They have been made with superabsorbent polymers added to avoid this autogenous shrinkage. And I know that the Thailand cement, do I have something from them here? I have something in my cupboard, but they have sold cement with pre-mixed superabsorbent polymers. And there are more examples, so it has been used. But do you know what? If you ask me, I would prefer that it is experimental, that we need to test so many things. We need to be very, very careful what we do. We want 120 years durability of concrete in many cases. So I would be more cautious, but yeah, sure. From my point of view, experimentally, I consider it something in the lab, but it has been used in practice in several cases, yes.
Perfect. I didn't see that we still have so more questions. Let's answer just one more because of the time of the webinar, and this is from anonymous attendant. Hi Ole, what do you think about the use of SAP for making aggregates coming from rejected concrete?
For making aggregates coming for rejected concrete. I'm not sure I understand the question. For making aggregates. I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
No problem. Alfredo, if you could put your question in Spanish, then we will try to understand it. And while this happens, Carmen Andrade raised her hand. You can speak, Carmen.
Pedro.
Julio,
hola, Pedro.
Can Carmen
¿Me escuchas?
have the chance of speaking?
¿Me escuchas, Pedro?
No, Carmen is not going to speak. It was an error when raising the hand. So we are going to close our senior webinar. Ole, we have a short protocol. Julio is going to give his message from Holcim. Then Enyo will say a few words as our president, and finally I will make some comments before closing this webinar. Julio, please.
Pedro, ¿me escuchas, Pedro?
Sí, muchísimas gracias a todos los que nos acompañaron el día de hoy. Los invitamos a la siguiente sesión, que es el próximo miércoles 11 de octubre, si no me equivoco, igual a las 11 de la mañana. Entonces, gracias, Ole, por acompañarnos, por la presentación, por el tema del día de hoy. Excelente. Y gracias a todos por la organización. Gracias, Ole.
Enyo.
My pleasure.
Hola, Pedro. No lo sé si me escuchaban. Antes yo intentaba hablar y no salía. ¿Me escuchan?
Sí, todo en orden, doctor.
Porque yo llamaba a Pedro y creo que no me escuchaba. ¿Sí me escuchan?
Sí, te escuchas.
No, just the translation.
Pedro no.
Just the translation.
Pedro no me escucha. Pedro no me escucha porque yo le llamaba.
Here, Ana.
No sé por qué. Porque había una pregunta más, Julio. Por esto le llamaba, porque había una pregunta en español y que deberíamos traducir al doctor Ole Jensen. Pero Pedro no me escucha. Sigue sin escucharme, ¿no? Sí, bien. Y todos los demás, ¿me escuchan? Tengo dudas ahora.
Sí, le
we can hear,
escuchamos.
we can hear the translation, Enyo, so it's not a problem. You can speak and we hear the translation from Ana.
Ok. Pedro, es que había una otra pregunta que se había hecho en español y en el momento yo llamaba por tu nombre para traducirla a Ole Jensen, que era el de Gabriel Agostini. Pero vamos, si ya no tenemos tiempo, seguimos entonces con el protocolo de clausura. Bien, es para la Alcompat Internacional, es un gusto tener la oportunidad de escuchar a Ole Jensen, un personaje, ¿no? Actual del mundo de la investigación en el área de innovaciones de hormigones. Nos sentimos entonces muy agraciados, toda la comunidad de Alcompat Internacional y Alcompats nacionales, y tener esta oportunidad. Agradecemos a Holcim por producir esta oportunidad para todos los asociados de las Alcompats nacionales y Alcompat Internacional. Muchísimas gracias a toda la asistencia y seguimos con las nuevas actividades de Alcompat Internacional. Invitamos a todos que entren en nuestra página y puedan verificar la cantidad de actividades que todavía vamos a tener en este año, sin olvidar de nuestra importante actividad, nuestro importante congreso. Una invitación especial a que toda la asistencia esté con nosotros en el Congreso Latinoamericano de Control de Calidad, Patología y Recuperación de la Construcción en Bolivia, Santa Cruz de la Sierra en Bolivia, el día 28 al 30 de septiembre. Esperamos a todos vosotros en Bolivia. Gracias.
Okay. Thank you very much, Enyo. Thank you, Julio, and thanks, Ole. Just a few more things. Remember, as Enyo said, our Compat 2023.com, that's the web page. And of course, our next generation of people studying our certification program that will be starting very soon. So all of you are invited to that. So thank you very much again, Ole. We are absolutely very happy with this talk about smart materials in civil engineer, and see you all in our next webinars. One of them is from Professor Dr. Fernando Martirén Hernandez, who is, as I realize, is promoting. October 11th is going to be our seminar from Dr. Martirena, and then we will have, before finishing the year, our last senior webinar from Dr. Costa Kobler from Israel. So goodbye to everyone, and thanks for being in this senior webinar. Thank you, Ole. Bye-bye. And good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Julio.